welcome to the first ever complete podcast gear list video I've ever done, and this one's specifically for Fighter and the Kid. Let's go. In this video, I'll show you pretty much all the podcast gear, the electronics, everything that gets this entire podcast going. Now first, let's start off with the cameras. We have three Sony a7S IIIs. This one right here is focused in on where me and Mark sit at. This is where I do my video mixing and current events and all that good stuff. So this one is a Sony a7S III with a Sigma 24-70 lens. This Sony a7S III is the one that's focused in on Brendan, and this one has a Tamron 28-75mm lens. And by the way, all the lenses have an aperture of f2.8. And this camera I used to film Brian, sitting right over there, is a Sony a7C. And the lens I use on this is a Tamron 17-70mm. We're filming on my phone right now because this is the main camera I was using to film all this other stuff. But this is also the main camera that we use for our wide shot. This is the third a7S III, and this lens is a Sony G Master 12-24mm. Lastly for cameras, this is a Sony a6000 that Kyle let us use, and this is to film me and Mark all the way down there. And for this camera, I'm using a zoom lens since we're all the way down there. It's a 70-180mm Tamron. Before we get to the microphones and everything else, real quick I want to say this is Black Friday for Into the AM, which is my sponsor. Everything on the website is 30% off, and not just 30% off. Starting right now, it's 30 to 80% off everything on the website until November 25th. And on top of that, you get an additional 10% off if you use my code intotheam.com/chin, which I'll put in the description box. You can get my camping and fishing inspired collab tee. You can get their basics line, which I love. The hoodies and the joggers are super soft, very comfortable, really nice material. Or you can get their bread and butter, which is graphic tees. Check out all these tees here. The colors pop, they never fade. The material is shrink resistant. It's just all around amazing fabric, and it really feels good on your skin. Not too thin to where you can see all the curves, but just thin enough to where it's comfortable, but thick enough to where it doesn't show all your love handles and all that stuff, which I completely understand. All right, the sale starts now. Remember the link below, click on that to get an additional 10% off the already 30 to 80% off you're getting. Thank you very much, let's get back to the video. And for all our mics in the studio, we use Shure SM7Bs. They're dynamic mics that are good for this particular kind of space because this place isn't really treated as far as like acoustic treatment on the walls and everything else. So dynamic mics pick up more what's in front of them instead of picking up a bunch of other stuff on the outside like ambient noise, which condenser mics do. For a computer, I use an iMac, and as you can see, this is a 2020 iMac, 5K 27-inch. It's still using the Mac OS Big Sur, which is a little bit older, but it's all good. It's 3.8 gigahertz, 8-core Intel Core i7 with 128 gigabytes of RAM. And for audio recording, audio editing, mixing, mastering, all that good stuff, I use the industry standard Pro Tools, and this is Pro Tools 12. For my audio interface, I use an Apollo X8P. This might be a little bit overkill for some of you guys out there, but remember, we don't just record podcasts here. We also do music, so that's why we picked up this beast. This is an AKG HP6E headphone amp that I don't think we've ever even used, but we'll use it one day. And this unit right here, with the lights right there, this is a Furman power conditioner. And basically you plug in your audio units to this Furman, and it helps to not have any kind of buzzing kind of sounds, and it also protects your equipment from any kind of like voltage surges. This right here is super important. This is a Zoom H6 backup recorder. So if anything fails with this system, which has happened before, this will luckily have a backup of all the audio we recorded. This right here is an A10 Mini Extreme ISO, and this is my video switcher. As you can see here, this is my station. This is where I can see the guys and also do the video switching. So just for example, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. That's called the program feed, by the way, and that's all the different cameras. So the program feed is what you see on YouTube. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is Brian, 2 is Brendan, 3 is the wide, 4 is me and Mark, 5 is also me and Mark, but then this is for picture-in-picture, and I'll explain that right now. So basically when Brendan and Brian are talking on a wide, I'll throw in a picture-in-picture by clicking here, and you'll see right there, the bottom left of the program feed. So when it comes to picture-in-picture for this video mixer, you have to program it. So I had to go into YouTube, look for tutorials, and find out how to program it to this particular one right here. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a ton of different macros programming you could do, but this is the only one I needed, so that's the one I made sure to program in. Now on the back of this video mixer, you can see a SanDisk, 1 terabyte portable SSD drive. And this is what I use to store all that video session data. while I'm still at my table, these here are Ultima table mic arms. We use these for when we have mics on the table. For my station right here, for Fight Companion, and for the Golden Hour, for Brendan, Chris, and Eric. These right here, I got a while back. These are Mika mic arms, and these are very expensive. I'll probably leave the price of everything below in a lower third somewhere. But so these Mika mic arms, I think they cost about like 400 bucks when we got them. And this right here, this XLR connection, it doesn't come with XLR cables. So basically it was just an empty cable like that with the 3 wires for the XLR connectors and then a shield. So you have to go in and buy connectors and solder them yourself. And you have to do it for both this end as well as this end. As you can see, that's the end right here. And to make sure the connections are good, I had to pick up this unit. It's a DBX CT2 cable tester. You basically just connect the male XLR connector to here and the female XLR connector to here, and then you test each connection to make sure everything is green. There's no cables connected right now, that's why you can't see the green there, but I did all the testing and it was perfect. Here's a quick view from where the guys are sitting. That's where I sit, and that's where I pull up current events to this huge thing over here. This is a 75-inch LG TV. I don't remember what model it is, but I'll put it down here below. And speaking of TVs, this right here is a, I don't know, it's a cheap smart TV that we use for something else. Maybe we used this for current events back in the day, but this is what I use right now as my video switching monitor. And huge shout out to Brian Johnson for mounting that giant TV up there and this little video switching monitor right here that has an articulating mount, so I can go ahead and move the TV towards me so the guys can't really see themselves and get distracted. Now for the small stuff, this is a Kensington Expert mouse, and this is basically for Pro Tools. And I've programmed shortcuts in each button and combination of buttons to do what I wanted to do in Pro Tools to speed up the editing process, the mixing, mastering process, all that stuff. It even helps with Final Cut when I'm editing video. This right here is an Anchor USB hub. It's only USB 2.0, but this is where I put my iLock. This is a licensing lock for Pro Tools. This is where I plug in my keyboard, my mouse. There's a little charging port here for USB 2.0 and external hard drives. And this right here is a Samsung SSD. It's a small SSD drive, and this is the drive I use for audio only. And yes, I do use Velcro. Believe me when I say that Velcro is a lifesaver. If you've ever seen the back of my laptop, you'll see all these different Velcro tape taped to each corner of my laptop. It keeps it there in place so it's not moving around. If you've ever tried to import or export audio or video, and then you kind of like even touch the drive, sometimes it'll get ejected. And you're like, dang, you gotta do the whole process over again. So this way, when it's on the Velcro, it hardly even moves, so it's just way more secure, and it doesn't get ejected prematurely. Oh, by the way, this is my Pelican 1120 case, and this is where I keep my hard drives. It's pretty small, but it keeps all my hard drives protected. A lot of foam in there, and I carry up to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different hard drives in here. So basically, here's one of my Samsung T5 SSDs. I'll take a cable, connect here, slap it on any corner of my laptop, like there. Connect it. Connect it here. And as you can see, it's securely in place. So there's no more premature ejaculation. While we're here, this is the laptop I use. It's a MacBook Pro. It's an older one. Let's see what year it is. It's a 2019 MacBook Pro 16-inch, 2.3 gigahertz, 8-core, Core i9, 64 gigabytes of RAM. And this thing has been cool, but it's starting to slow down now. So I'm looking at new MacBook Pros with the M1 or M2 chip or wherever it's at right now. These right here are my in-ear monitors from 64 Audio. They're called A18Ts. They've got 18 speakers in each monitor. So that means there's 18 speakers in each ear. This is super overkill for most people. But like I mentioned before, I do freelance editing, mixing, and engineering for TV, film, and podcasting, and music. I'm also a touring musician. I mean, by touring, I've been on 3 tours, I think. So I'm a beginning touring musician, but I also rely on those on stage to sing and play music. But if you just work on regular audio and video, you can find headphones for like $100 that are perfectly good. Just try to get headphones that have a flat response so you can hear everything that's actually happening. Nothing's like boosted or cut as far as bass, highs, all that stuff. If that doesn't make any sense, just Google flat response headphones. All right, let's take this SanDisk drive out real quick. Plug it into the computer so I can show you my video editing software. And also, once again, shout out to Brian Johnson for making this cool Pantera inspired, whatever this is, Chinsuyu thing. It's just cool. And it even says how cool is that. So I'll plug this into the computer right now. And I'll show you my video editing software. It's pretty obvious. There's only pretty much Final Cut and Adobe Premiere, and I like to use Final Cut Pro. And this is from our last session. I might go into details about how I edit and tricks and shortcuts that I do. For example, these lower thirds right here that I use for athletic greens, how it pops in like that. I'll show you next time when I go more into the details of the software, the editing, mixing, mastering of audio, and also the editing and video. But that's for later. And this is Final Cut Pro version 10.6.3. All right, I think that's it. I wanted to keep this video short to just give you the real meat and potatoes of all the gear here in the studio. Just the main pieces of hardware and software I use for both the audio side of the podcast and the video side of the podcast. All right, if you have any questions or comments, just leave them below, and I'll try to make more videos. See you later.